So I went to a men's breakfast this morning and got to fellowship with brothers. Well, right as the meeting started, there was an older gentleman that was off to the side, and he says, "Hey," he says, "were you guys at a hospital about a month ago and you were praying for people within the waiting room?" And we're like, "Yeah." He said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "No." He said, "I was there for heart issue." I was like, "That's right, I remember." So if I could step back for a second, there was a man there that had trouble breathing, and he wasn't being able to breathe, and he was just crying because he thought, my heart's going to fail. His wife was crying because of, just all kinds of issues, right? And so we sat there with him, and we were there for my grandma, but we're like, hey, we're here. Why not pray with people, share Jesus with people? And so he already went to church, and we talked about Jesus, but we laid hands on him, and we began to pray. Well, my grandma was in the back. Finally, they went back, and he had to get all kinds of tests ran because he was having trouble breathing. So he goes back, and we go back, and so then he starts to testify this morning. He says, I've been waiting I didn't know if I'd ever see you again. I didn't know if you guys were angels. I didn't know who you were. He said, because they ran every test you can imagine on me. And he says, you want to know what they found inside my heart and what they found inside my lungs? He said, nothing. He said, God healed me that day. And he said, and I didn't know if you guys were angels. He said, I didn't know who you were. But I came to this church right here, and he says, and I cried, and his pastor was there. He's like, he cried before the whole congregation because he said, God healed me. And so I went to a men's breakfast not knowing that I was going to be able to run into the man who God healed, who would remember us saying, man, I thought you guys were angels. I didn't know you guys just disappeared. But God still heals today in Jesus' name.